Right, so got something a little bit different for you today. This is just me preparing some pasta bolognese. Normally I eat single ingredient foods. I like eating like that, it's just simple, but I'm sort of trying to add a little bit more variety and something a little bit different. So what we've got here is grass-fed ground beef. Now this is 20% fat. Some people are scared of fat and I don't think that's necessary. I think fat is good. I've mentioned that in previous videos, but this is from a local farm from grass-fed cows, and that's important because that's going to make the omega-3 and just the nutrient density of the food better anyway. So it's from a local farm, it's 5 minutes down the road, and you get sort of multiple benefits from shopping like that. You get to interact with the people that actually produce the food you're eating, you're supporting the local community, and you can see the animals that this is coming from. So this is very high quality meat, and in comparison to say buying this from a supermarket, you're not going to know where it's come from. The animals are going to be full of antibiotics and their living conditions aren't going to be great. So it's not necessary to buy organic and grass-fed locally sourced food, but if you can, it's definitely worth doing. So when I make my meals and compare them to other foods, I always find there's an unnecessary high amount of ingredients, and that's purely just to help the companies that sell the food keep it on the shelves for longer. And I like raw dairy because it's unpasteurised and unhomogenized, and this is Parmesan cheese, so you can actually get that in your supermarket. Other raw dairy is quite hard to find, but yeah, this you'll be able to get anywhere, which is good. So you want raw dairy where possible because homogenization is a high pressure filtering of the milk and pasteurization is boiling the milk, and both processes denature the milk. I'll put some pictures on screen of this. Is off of the Western A Price website. One image is milk in its raw form, and then the other image is going to be milk that's been processed through homogenization and pasteurization. And then I'll put a picture up of blood, and if you look at the comparison, the similarities between milk and blood, it just makes logical sense to me that we should be consuming that in its normal form, not in its hyper processed form. Pasta. Now I've just started adding pasta back into my diet, and I'm trying things out, just slowly trying to reintegrate things, because I always just think the more nutrients and the more things you can expose your body to, the better. So what I learned with pasta, because whenever I add something back in, I always sort of do my research about that food. So with pasta, you want to buy pasta that comes from Italy, and in Italy the rules for growing pasta, for growing the durum wheat, are a lot higher. And I don't think they use glyphosate. I think that's just a European rule, or there was some reason. I would recommend watching Dr. Berg's video on pasta, and he explains why durum wheat pasta from Italy is very good. All of the ingredients that go into this pasta bolognese. 8 different ingredients. I know the quality of the beef is, like I say, locally sourced, grass-fed, 20% fat. I've got raw cheese. I've got Italian durum wheat pasta. We've got an organic onion, organic carrot. The carrot was mentioned in Dr. Batman Gadji's book about water, and he just mentions that 1 small carrot a day is good for nutrition. Then we got organic garlic, and that tin of tomatoes, I always check the ingredients, because whenever I see, whether it's a tinned food or dried fruit or anything, whenever there's sugar on the ingredients list, I avoid it. Sugar is the enemy, and it is the cause of disease and weight gain, and pretty much all health issues are going to come from sugar. Fat, on the other hand, is not a problem, but often people think it is. So I checked that tin of tomatoes. Normally tinned things, because they're being preserved for a long time, have sugar in them. That tin has 2 ingredients. One is the tomatoes, and the second ingredient is acidity regulator, which obviously you just want single ingredient foods, but I checked what it was, and it was citric acid, which is essentially like lemon juice. So I'm happy with that. Apart from that, we're all unprocessed. Everything else is single ingredient. Actually, the raw cheese might have a couple of ingredients, but they weren't bad. So I'm making this myself, and it's there is always a compromise to be made. So I looked at the ingredients on a store-bought pasta sauce, bolognese sauce, and the ingredients weren't actually that bad. They weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. The first ingredient was tomatoes. The second ingredient was double concentrated tomato paste. So when I googled what double concentrated means, it just means that they filter out all the seeds, skin and any bits. So that's a filtration process. So that's one process. And then they heat it to make it more concentrated. Now during that process it's going to be heated to a high degree. Anytime you heat or process food you're going to lose nutrition. So at least with the tomatoes in the tin that I bought, it hasn't gone through that process. So you just want to avoid as many unnecessary processes and avoid sugar where possible. So on the bolognese sauce, it had the fourth ingredient was sugar. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Our tin tomatoes don't have sugar in the ingredients. We're not adding any sugar. So it's going to be completely just the ingredients we're going for. Now you might think this is a little bit overkill, but I can see in the not too distant future everybody's going to be mindful of their cooking this way, and you're going to want to get on the trend as early as possible. Avoiding sugar is going to be the norm in a couple of years, so you might as well start now. So that's butter from grass-fed animals. Unfortunately it's not raw. I will try and source raw butter. But I think what I'm going to start doing is swapping it for coconut oil, because I've heard of many health benefits associated with coconut oil. So I don't know if that will change the flavour at all, because the flavour on this butter is absolutely lovely. It's not fancy, but there's a compromise. So you can have your fancy meals and they'll be full of preservatives, full of ingredients that are purely, they're not for taste and they're not for nutrition. They are purely for keeping the product on the shelf so that the company that's selling it can make a profit. So we're just adding some sea salt here. Sea salt is good. Again, people are scared of salt. If you're going to be scared of salt, you want to be scared of table salt. That's refined salt. Sea salt is full of minerals and essential electrolytes that you need. There are 80 essential minerals in sea salt. So sea salt is sodium, or you can use pink Himalayan salt. There's always going to be a compromise. You can have your store-bought stuff and it'll be nice and it'll be the proper consistency. It won't be watery. It will taste, you'll have the flavours. But I think we all eat for taste now, and I don't think that's the number one priority when you're eating. It should be nutrition. Chuck some cheese on top and we're done. That's real food. See you in the next one.